Okay guys, so in this video we're going to be talking about Tilray stocks. I wanted to record this video as a follow-up to the video I published earlier. Back then, Tilray stock was up around $8, so the stock has pulled back a bit. So now we're at a more attractive, right under $7 level. And a lot of you guys have been asking me questions on what's been going on with Tilray, saying that they released shares from a lockup. So that is the primary purpose of this video, guys, although I do wanted to kind of update you guys on some of the price action as well. But anytime I think any of these cannabis companies like Tilray, Aurora Cannabis, anytime I think you can find them for under $1 billion, I think they are a nice value buy for the long term, guys. So let's address that question right now on what's really going on with Tilray. So let me just head over to, so we're on Yahoo. Let's address this issue. It says Tilray Inc. releases 18 million shares from lockup agreement. So let's guys, it says Tilray, a global pioneer in cannabis production, research, and cultivation distribution, today announced that the board of directors of Tilray unanimously approved the pro rata release of 11 million shares of Class 2 common stock held by former equity holders of privateer holdings, guys. So what's basically going on is that these shares have been released to privateer holders through a lockup agreement. So first I want to tell you guys exactly what a lockup agreement is. So now we're on Investopedia, so I want to educate you guys as much as possible on this channel, so let's give you an official definition. It says basically a lockup period is a window of time when investors are not allowed to redeem or sell shares of a particular investment. There are two main uses for lockup periods, those with hedge funds and those for startup IPOs. So guys, what this is that they had an agreement that they could not sell their shares for a certain time period. So then what that means is that this reduces the float. So the float is the total amount of shares that are available for trading. So when companies have a low float, they have a high volatility, because if there's not so many shares, there's a supply demand issue. So when the supply is lower and the people really want to own the shares, the stock price skyrockets. When the supply is limited and not as many people like the shares and they decide to sell them, the stock price crashes very fast. So let's just keep going. It says these shares, the shares are being released from lockup agreements entered into and under the agreement and planned merger reorganization dated September 9th, 2019 by Tilray Privateer Downriver Merger Sub, a Delaware limited liability company, wholly owned subsidiary of Tilray, and Michael Blue as a stockholder representative. A waiver will be released to take effect on April 3rd, and the released shares may be sold on or after that date, subject to applicable security laws or contractual limitations, guys. So basically what's going on is these shares were locked up, and then now it looks like Privateer will probably liquidate these shares on the open market. So what this first basically does is that this obviously dilutes the stock a bit, makes each share worth less, because when you have more shares outstanding, that just usually decreases the value of each share, because you know it's basically a supply demand issue. And it says here the shares to be released on April 3rd. It's part of the previously announced release of Tilray stock over a 2-year period. We believe the staggered release of locked up shares as strategic market offers will manage our public float in an orderly fashion. And then it also says the waiver and release announced today will apply on a pro rata basis to each former private equity holder who received a share or options to purchase Tilray Class 2 common stock in the merger, guys. So basically what this is going to do for you as an investor, well, what this means for you is that, yes, the stock has been diluted. Now, it's not a big deal. It's very normal for companies to have lockup periods. Uber had a lockup period and the stock recovered and performed pretty good. It's pretty much normal. Most of these companies, you know, when they go public or things like that, when they have private deals, they can always have some shares that are basically locked up. You can't trade them, you can't dump them, you can't do anything with them. And then when these time periods reach fruition, usually a lot of times the company ends up just selling the shares on the open market, taking their money and reinvesting it or putting it to some other asset or whatever it may be. But guys, I wouldn't worry about this too much, because yes, in the short term, I think if you're trading Tilray stock, this is definitely a bearish signal for you, meaning that your shares will decrease. And usually when the shares outstanding increases, that is a negative effect on the stock, has a negative effect on the stock price. And when companies perform a stock buyback, that has a positive effect on the stock price. This is basically supply demand, guys. This is like Econ 101. But what does this mean for you as a long-term Tilray? So if you're not a trader, you're a long-term investor. Well, what this means is that you can simply acquire Tilray shares at a lower cost, guys. It is perfectly normal for some of these companies to issue more shares or to have more shares into the marketplace. I wouldn't worry about it, but it's also a little bit safer because, as the article alluded to, it reduces the float. So what it means is that you're not going to see nearly as much price volatility, and that's one of the problems that we have in the cannabis industry in general. There is a lot of price volatility for some of these stocks. So what ends up happening is that people end up getting emotional, and then sometimes they sell too early, or they sell when the stock is falling when you should be buying, and then when the stock has gone up too much, they rush in to buy when that's probably some of the time that you should take off a tiny bit of your position. But for me, I'm a buy and hold investor. If I'm trading, I like to trade options. Even though options move a lot faster and stuff like that, there's extra risks. I like how you can turn a little bit of money into a large sum of money with not as much risk if you know what you're doing, guys. And there's even strategies called like a option straddle where you buy both the call and the put. So no matter which way the stock moves, you're going to make some money, guys. So I hope this answers your question as much as possible. And I'm going to wrap something up, guys. Tilray is another company that you guys can check out. You guys check out the link in the description I put below with my article on how to invest in cannabis stocks. So you guys can check out Tilray and many other companies in this industry if you're brand new to cannabis stocks in general. And hey, lastly, have you gotten your free stocks yet? You guys can check out the links in the description to Robinhood. You get 1 free share of stock, and with Webull, you get 2 free shares of stock if you sign up and make a deposit. So grab your free stocks, guys. Why not? If you're new to investing, these are some of my 2 favorite apps, Robinhood and Webull. I use these apps all the time. So that's it for now, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I answered my question as best as possible. If you guys have any other questions about some of the stocks you own or some of the stocks on your watch list, let me know in the comment section. So give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more informative videos on Tilray, cannabis stocks, and the stock market as a whole. So that's it for now, guys. Stay safe.